You know, the greatest challenge that we face is bringing our own people with us, making peace with your friends.
Any man who is not with us is against us. When is a unionist not a unionist? When he creates disunion.
Well, in the end, customs checks doesn't mean that you change the constitutional status of a part of the United Kingdom.
This is the most momentous election that we have ever had to face. We must elect those who would fight for the Union, not those who would oppose it.
Already we're seeing the political parties and business leaders coming together to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
The Northern Ireland Assembly is the place where every element of our society is represented. Such partnership is how we must move forward. And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries.
When is a unionist not a unionist? When he creates disunion.
The sheet of paper you were given didn't show you all these different regulations on them, so it didn't even mention how many regulations there were. And when I queried that, I asked one of the DUP spads, because I knew it had something to do with it, and I was given this assurance that it was keeping us in line with the rest of the United Kingdom, and there was absolutely nothing to worry about.
And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries.
I trusted what I was told, and I made a mistake, and that's how it was sold to me, and I can only apologise.
The Northern Ireland Assembly is the place where every element of our society is represented. And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries. In August 2016, within weeks of the EU referendum, my party leader, Arlene Foster, penned a letter jointly with the then Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness. That letter was written to the UK Prime Minister, Theresa May. And it's worth quoting, I think, from this letter. This region is unique in that it is the only part of the UK which has a land border with an EU member state. There have been difficult issues relating to the border throughout our history and the peace process. We therefore appreciate your stated determination that the border will not become an impediment to the movement of people, goods and services.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
It was pragmatic and constructive. As then First Minister and Deputy First Minister, these two leaders were writing in the same spirit of mutual respect and common sense, which enabled my party and Sinn Féin to reach agreement at St Andrews and subsequently to establish a power-sharing government.
We must elect those who will fight for the Union, not those who would oppose it.
And therefore, making peace with your enemies is important, but it can only be successful if you make peace with your friends. Thank you.
Well, hello and welcome to another Restore Live. Restore Live going out on a Wednesday evening to Restore UK, that's on Facebook, also to the British Unionist People's Voice on Facebook, and to the Restore YouTube channel. And I have to say the numbers, they're climbing very high. As always, whenever that we bring and whenever we've intentions to bring someone from the TUV on our channel, what I would like to call the new breed of politics. Now, we have a lady called Elizabeth Neely that's going to be with us very, very shortly. And what I'm going to say about the likes of Elizabeth, as it was the same with the last two people that we had on from the TUV, I mean, these are ordinary people, just like you and just like I. These people aren't polished politicians by any means, but you know something? They put themselves forward, they place their head above the parapet, and they do so because why? Because that they care. And often whenever I would look, say, at that performance from Jeffrey Donaldson, what I do see what I see a lot of inconsistencies. I see that these people are prepared to say whatever it is that that day would actually require them to say. And if you notice what Jeffrey had said, well, Jeffrey said there at the very, very start, he said that, because that there's customs checks doesn't mean to say that there's a constitutional change. Well, let's just play another short video clip before that we bring Elizabeth on, because I really want to take that to task. And it was that drove me to make that little video clip, which I spent many man hours doing over the course of yesterday. And it was what happened just 2 days ago here in Northern Ireland. Now, what I understand is that this has been reversed. But what I would like you to do is I would like you to listen very, very, very carefully to this man in the Westminster as he was speaking about how that some brainwave decided on the day that the court that the appeal court turned down everything in terms of the stand against the constitutional changing Northern Ireland protocol. Well, on that very day, there was legislative change. Which suggested that the United Kingdom was no more, that Northern Ireland was a complete place apart from the United Kingdom in terms of the trade and also in terms of the customs legislation. Just listen to this man, and then we'll come back and remember Jeffrey's words. What Jeffrey had said last year is because that there's customs checks doesn't mean to say that there's constitutional change. Well, you make your own decision whenever you hear what is going on behind your back in Westminster. Now, I believe that this was put out on the day of the court case, of the day of the appeal court judgment, and also in a time whenever Ukraine is dominating the news. And this is how things happen in the media, that I believe that this was, well, they tried to slip it in under the radar, but too many people are tuned into politics. They eat, sleep, drink, and breathe politics, and they have learned a lot from the shenanigans that goes on when some folk they have the intention to separate Northern Ireland from the rest of the United Kingdom. As we will have said many times on this platform before, an army of people must be put together with weapons of words which will remain and abide for another 100 years. And there is an army of people being put together right now, ordinary people who care about Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. And it was one of those people that noticed this getting slipped in onto the radar. And before you know it, well, it's all over social media land. And it was reversed, as what I can understand. But just listen to this clip anyway, and then understand how smart Jeffrey Donaldson really is whenever he says that if there is a border in the North Channel and if there's customs checks, well, that doesn't equal constitutional change. Now, I have one question before that we move on. Didn't Mug Beattie say that he was a constitutional unionist, that he wasn't an economic unionist? Does that make Jeffrey Donaldson the same? Because he said that because there's customs checks, doesn't mean to say that there's constitutional change. Well, not according to this man in this video, whenever he's questioning the legislation that was being slipped into place below the radar.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. What this statutory instrument does is substitute Great Britain where United Kingdom can be found. It does it repeatedly and very explicitly. And I heard I listened very carefully to my right and learned friend and her explanation that it's technical. But here's the problem. Article 4 of the withdrawal agreement, Northern Ireland is part of the customs territory of the United Kingdom, an absolutely crucial concession from the European Union in the course of negotiations. My right honourable and learned friend said that trade will continue smoothly, but of course she subsequently then acknowledged that there are real problems. I've just come back from Belfast recently, and I can tell her that temperatures there are running very high amongst the unionist community. There are GB suppliers of note who are not shipping to Northern Ireland, simply refusing to supply products from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. Other goods arrive in Northern Ireland from Great Britain with customs declarations attached. People are forgetting that the Belfast Agreement operates east-west as well as north-south. This is a matter of the most profound concern to the unionist community, and what this instrument appears to do, by substituting Great Britain where UK, United Kingdom, should be found, it appears to run up the white flag and say that we're not negotiating on the protocol, or indeed that we're not going to use facilities in the treaty which were foreseen. The protocol was always unfinished business. That's why some of us, when we went out and backed the protocol, said it was a tolerable path to a great future. The Prime Minister became Prime Minister on the assurance given repeatedly to Eurosceptics, the withdrawal agreement is dead. His words, the withdrawal agreement is dead. And we asked him, well, you won't just remove the backstop and replace it with something else and change the destination, will you? No, the withdrawal agreement is dead. He then went on and did just what he told us he would not do. And now we see here, with an instrument which replaces United Kingdom with Great Britain, we find that he appears to be doubling down on not fixing this protocol.
Well, there you go, people. What you will have heard there is that there was an instrument, a legislative instrument put in place. And what it did was that it removed the term United Kingdom from the entire United Kingdom, which consists of 4 constituent parts. That's England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, known as the United Kingdom. And the customs legislation was changed to suggest that GB would consist of England, Scotland, and Wales, and Northern Ireland would be known going forward as Northern Ireland, a place completely separate, completely apart in terms of trade, in terms of economics. Well, they would be a place completely apart from the rest of what is known as the United Kingdom. Now, who in Westminster decided to do that? And for what reason did they actually decide to do that? And then I refer back to Doug Beattie when he says that he's a constitutional unionist and he's not an economic unionist. And then I listened to Jeffrey Donaldson when he said, because there's customs checks doesn't mean to say that there's going to be constitutional change. Well, now I've news for the DUP. What you'll have just heard there is technically constitutional change, in where that Northern Ireland isn't part of GB, and the United Kingdom seems to have been absolutely scrubbed from the customs legislation. For what reason is the real question? For what reason? Now, back to what it is that we're here to do, but we thought that we had to give that context because there was something that has happened in the past few days, amongst many other things, I may add. You could be forgiven, I'm talking to the live chat here, for being in despair with reference to the depths that some of these charlatans are going to in order to separate us from the rest of the United Kingdom. Well, we are Northern Ireland. We are patriotically proud to be British. We love our country. We love the United Kingdom. We love to be part of Britain. We love to be part of a United Kingdom that incorporates England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And try taking that away from us. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen easily. Well, I know that some of our politicians would roll over and would accept almost anything, and it was proven through that video that was actually shown at the very, very start. But not ordinary people. Ordinary people care about this place way too much to let any charlatan, any pretend patriotically proud Northern Ireland man, and I say pretend, well, ordinary people will never, ever, ever let that happen. Whilst there's breath in their bodies. So what I want to do at this point is I want to invite Elizabeth Neely on our screen. Now, this is where the screen gets really, really happy, because we've got an ordinary person on here, an ordinary person who is prepared, just like many other people that has joined the TUV, a party of the people, a party which is being occupied right now by people willing to put their heads above the parapet, to serve, to put themselves forward, to stand, to seek election, to serve and to protect you, and to do the things that the mainstream politicians has failed to do all the days of my life. I'm 53 years of age now, And as all of my life, ever since I can remember what even understanding what politics was, well, I've seen climb down after climb down. I've seen all sorts of shenanigans going on. And I have to say, it's got to the point where we've nothing left to lose. And isn't it time that we turned this good ship unionism around before the captains of the ship, before that they lead it into the rocks and it's lost and it's gone forever. Catherine, Elizabeth, welcome on our screen. Thanks very much for agreeing to come on. And sorry about that long-winded start, but sometimes some things are actually worth pointing out and worth actually saying. And, you'll have seen there that Jeffrey, whilst he uses fine words, and I'm allowed to say this, and I'm not going to get the TUV into fighting or poking against other political parties, but as a person, I'm quite entitled to say that. I'm a member of the Northern Ireland electorate, and where I see things going wrong, well, it is my absolute right to point things out. Elizabeth, once again, welcome. And I would like to just ask you, Elizabeth, okay, so you're a lady, you're from Londonderry. You now find yourself being thrust into the limelight in terms of that you've put your head above the parapet to offer yourself to serve and protect the people of Northern Ireland by way of seeking election to be their MLA in the Legislative Assembly. Could you just tell me a little bit about yourself? Just tell me about your background. Tell me, do you have children? What type of work do you do? Take as long as you like and just explain to the live chat exactly who you are, Elizabeth. Over to you.
Well, thank you, John, first for inviting me. Well, I'm Elizabeth Neely, as you have announced, and I live in new buildings outside Londonderry. I'm a widowed mother of 5, and I have 6 children. I have another wee one, and I work within the health service in the reablement sector, in the social care sector, and clients' homes where they come out of hospital. Basically, that's really all I can really say about myself. I've just decided basically to put myself forward because I was a long time DUP supporter, and I just felt that they just had sold us down the river.
Yeah.
So I decided to join a party that was speaking basically for unionists and loyalists, for people like my grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, what you'll find, there's plenty of people on our live chat here, and they're coming from all arts and parts in terms of, there's some people from Scotland, some people from England, some people from right around Northern Ireland that's on this channel. And, most people from Northern Ireland, and even most people that believe in the United Kingdom, they would have always, since the times of Davy Trimble and the Anglo-Irish Agreement, the Belfast Agreement sellout, and that's how I see that now. But since them days, most people would have supported the DUP and would have supported what the DUP stood for and what it was in terms of. They were a party in days gone by that you could have certainly sat back and you could have understood that when it came to constitutional matters and things that would have affected the people of Northern Ireland, the British Unionist people of Northern Ireland, well, you could have been sure that through the Paisley days, there would have been a price to pay for aggressing against British Unionism. But and even myself, I was a DUP supporter, and I found myself that I didn't want to vote for the likes of the UUP or the PUP, but I found myself voting for the DUP. And in the election there on the 6th of December in 2019, that was the last general election. You see, we rallied this country for the DUP, and you've prompted me to say this here. I'm going to try to talk about the DUP and ask you some questions based on your support and what loyalty that you did have for the DUP. But you see, we rallied this country on the 6th of December, prior to the 6th of December 2019. And we were given certain promises by the DUP that they would not capitulate to the IRA demands for what I'm going to quote is an IRA Language Act. And I specifically chose those words, and I didn't say an Irish Language Act. And because that, I often say to people, what part of what that IRA and Sinn Féin are telling you do you not understand? Because there's a Republican nation building strategy, and what it encompasses is the repossession of the Irish language and the using of the Irish language. And in Shane Walsh's own words, where he said that they wanted to green Northern Ireland street by street using the Irish language. So we had much discussion with the DUP prior to that general election. And that was a biggie for a lot of people, because we know the onslaught that is going to come via this Irish language towards British unionism. We see it right now in where the councils are forcing this language into places where it's not welcome. And yet our politicians, they turn a blind eye. So going forward after that election came along the new decade, New Deal. And, myself and another member of your party, a man called John Ross, well, we had a meeting with Edwin Poots on the 28th of December in 2019. And I have to say, out of all the DUP, Edwin Poots was brutally honest with myself and John, in where that he told us that they were going to permit an Irish language commissioner. But, I said to him then, how did the Parades Commissioner turn out for the people of Northern Ireland? And here you are, that what you're doing is that you're giving these Republicans as good as an Irish Language Act. However, they didn't take on board what our concerns were. They did make some promises before the election, and they went ahead. And what they did was they done this deal, and it was complete and utter. And they didn't have anybody's authority to do this deal. But as you will have heard Jeffrey Donaldson on that very video, is that sometimes whenever you're trying to make peace, you've got to take chances. Well, what they did was they have taken the largest chance with Northern Ireland's future that I have ever seen. So that is why that I'm not a DUP supporter any longer. In fact, can I trust those people again? I don't know. That's how I feel. I would like to ask you why it is that you're not a DUP supporter anymore.
Well, just the same as yourself, John, really. I just felt that, the votes that I've given them since I turned 18, when I was first legal to vote, I trusted them. I trusted them wholeheartedly that with my vote that they would keep us within the United Kingdom, keep us out of a United Ireland, etc. But now they just seem to have squandered that. It's no longer about what the ordinary people want. It's basically about what they want. They're trying to do these deals and trying to make people like myself feel as if we're being stupid, that they know it all, whereas we're not blind and we're not deaf, and we know exactly what is going to happen. And we knew exactly what was going to happen when Theresa May first talked about the Irish Sea border. That was the first steps to cutting us off from the United Kingdom. And the DUP have done that. And it's not on in my book. And that's why I've decided to stand for the TUV for this election. And I hope to be returned for Foyle and make unionist people's voice heard, because it wasn't being heard.
Yeah. I would just like to read out that comment from Jennifer Taylor. Our men have fought and died for our beliefs. Our our grandparents and our great grandparents would turn in their graves. You got to excuse me. I choke up when I see things like that, and I'm good at speaking. I do these shows all the time, but whenever I see ordinary people just like that saying what it is that they're saying, our men have fought and died for our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Our grandparents and our great grandparents would turn in their graves. For what? For Jeffrey Donaldson et al. to throw away everything that people has ever stood for. How do you think when you see something like that?
Well, my grandfather too would be turning in his grave. Jeffrey Donaldson has done a big, terrible thing, and I think it's gone too far for him to bring it back. But we need to basically do our best and stand together to try and get ourselves back into the United Kingdom without that sea border. There's no way that sea border, in my mind, can stay where it is. It has to go, completely go. No twerking at it or tweaking at it or trying to make it work. As Mary Lou McDonald says tonight in the news about it's important that the sea border works. Important for who? Certainly not for me or people like me.
And, you know, I would be absolutely sure, Elizabeth, that the people on the live chat would be, they would be with you. Now, I'm going to ask you a question with reference to something you would have seen in that little clip whenever we were playing different quotes that we literally, we searched the internet looking for, and we watched hours and hours and hours of video footage. And we've got many more quotes from Jeffrey to come, and some of the higher ranking members of the DUP to come in the coming days and in the coming weeks, just reminding people of the things that they would have said. Now, one of the quotes in that clip would have been, is that we need to exploit the benefits of the protocol. Now, I understand that protocol to be completely constitutional changing. I understand that protocol to be the mechanism by which that we would be delivered to this so-called New Ireland. And yet Jeffrey Donaldson wants to exploit the benefits within it. Can you give us some commentary on those comments from Jeffrey?
Well, to be honest, John, I truly do not know what Jeffrey is thinking. I can't explain why he thinks that we should exploit. Exploit what? You know, because it's not benefiting anybody here, not in Northern Ireland. It's not benefiting anyone. I just can't understand why he thinks that there's something that needs to be exploited, because the sea border is not doing anything for any of us unionists. It's destroying the union. It is preventing vital medications. I'm not sure if you watched the news tonight, John, and seen about the breast cancer.
Yeah.
How those secondary cancer, the ladies with secondary cancers can't get the vital medication here in Northern Ireland that they need. So what's it going to take for Jeffrey to realise there's nothing to exploit? It has to go. He has to work hard at getting rid of what he put there. And I think all the unionist parties need to stand strong together to get it removed, because he's not going to get it removed on his own. They might have put it there on their own, the DUP, but they'll never get rid of it on their own.
Yeah, and indeed, you know, and whenever I think back to, and again, I'm going to refer to that clip. Now, that's for a moment. We'll stick with what you just said there, and then we'll move on and we'll quote something else. Because you just said there that the DUP, they may have put it there, but they need more than themselves to actually remove it. And I look again, this is me saying that you know, they have one last chance at putting things right, but this time that we demand that they stick to the fight. And now that's in a poem that we would often play here at Restore UK, that we really do need every single unionist in this country to come together, to stand together, because we is actually better than I. But people, as a person, I cannot trust the DUP again. That's my honest opinion. And, you know, I'm completely entitled to it. Not to say that I wouldn't work with anyone out of the DUP to try to remove the things that they have, to try to claw back some of the ground that they've actually given. Now, let's go back for a moment. And then we'll go forward a wee second. But let's just ask you, because I know that you were involved in the healthcare sector there. I did watch what you seen this evening. In fact, I heard it today on the radio, and I heard of a young lady whose cancer has moved from her breasts into her skin. I don't know much about it, but certainly this is how I'll explain it in layman's terms. And that lady, in my view, or my understanding, I mean, she's going to die. She's going to die, and there was treatment that is available in Scotland that isn't available here in Northern Ireland. Now, Elizabeth, we've got to be careful whenever we've got to be very, very careful that we don't promote something for a technical reason that it can't be here. You know, maybe Nicola Sturgeon and the Scottish government has decided to purchase this and maybe people in England don't have it, or people in Wales don't have it. So we don't actually know the answer to that. Now, if you do, and if you're going to speak with authority, I would like for you to tell me, I mean, what it is that you understand with reference that medicine that lady can't get. Now, if that is a result of the constitutional changing NI protocol, well, you know, that is a bridge too far. That is enough to not just have every British unionist or every unionist here in Northern Ireland out against this protocol, but that is enough and should be enough to have every right-minded Catholic and nationalist out against this protocol also. Would you just like to give some comments on what it was you heard? Now, you seen me getting emotional earlier on with that quote. I have to say, with that young lady today, how sad. How
Yeah,
sad.
well, from what I gathered from the news report today, John, the medication's available to the rest of the UK, but not available to us here in Northern Ireland. Not just Scotland, it's available in Wales and in England as well. And the reason that medication's not here is down to the protocol. That's my understanding of what that news report was given us today.
Now, at this point, I would just like to appeal to our background team there. And, you know, there's a few good researchers that we have in the background. So we need to dig into that. We really need to, because that should occupy a full show here on Restore UK. And, you know, and I did hear that the lady was actually indicating that Robin Swan needs to have this rectified. Now, that is cause for us to chase the Ulster Unionist Party. That is cause for us to be knocking on Robin Swan's door to ask him the real questions in terms of, I mean, what's happening here? Why are the people of Northern Ireland not being told whenever this, if it is this constitutional change in protocol, why are we not being told that we are not only second-class citizens in terms of our democracy, because the same democracy wasn't afforded to us as it was in England, Scotland, and Wales over the Brexit referendum. Not only are we second-class citizens because we are now separated and we don't enjoy the same electoral success in terms of that referendum as England, Scotland, and Wales, you know, but now we're being told that we're separated in terms of from customs, that we're Northern Ireland and they are GB. I mean, how much more can we, as peace-loving British Unionists, as law-abiding citizens, you know, we're doing the lawful thing here. We're going to court. We're trying to change things by explaining to people that this is totally unfair, that this is wrong, that we won the election, that we won the referendum, that the people that placed their axe against leave the EU, well, we should be leaving on the same terms as the rest of the United Kingdom. And here we are, having been denied our democracy. And as Aileen Quinton, a victim of the Enniskillen atrocity, well, she said last week in Dromore in County Down at a gathering against the protocol, she says that she was robbed of, not only robbed of her mother's life, but now the same terrorists have robbed her of her democracy. And that's exactly what has happened, you know, with Aileen Quinton. So thanks for raising that, Elizabeth. And I have to say, I'm so far enjoying the chat with you here. And I would just like to appeal to the live chat. If you would like to leave some messages of encouragement on the live chat there for Elizabeth, because we need to give Elizabeth all the support that we can give her, because this is an ordinary person. I can't stress this enough, just like the two other people that we had on in the past few weeks, but this is an ordinary person who has had enough of the spin, the swindle, and the fudge and the corruption that she has witnessed and seen all the days of her life. And she was a loyal DUP supporter. You know, they asked for her support, then they lied to her face. This is what Elizabeth represents today. A growing number of Northern Ireland citizens, unionist citizens in Northern Ireland, who are being taken for mugs, not only by the British government, by the EU, by the Irish government, by the Americans, but also by those that she chose, that she elected, they put into power to serve and protect her. Elizabeth, I would just like to ask you, I mean, you said that you had 6 children there.
Mhm.
What does it mean for you to see the potential of what is coming down your line? And I'm not going to ask you to get into the nitty gritty of what it is that you see coming down your line as a result of this corruption, but is this the type of country that you would like to see your children growing up in?
I'd like to see my children growing up and my grandchildren growing up as part of the UK, not as an all Ireland. It's pointless to even think or even consider this country to be an all Ireland, because it's never going to work. It's just going to basically then just cause more war here. It'll not be Sinn Féin IRA this time. It'll be our own boys out warring, because we just can't have this unionist sea border down. No, this sea border down dividing us from our government. You know, the government that pays for our health
I
service.
think Elizabeth is actually. We're both sorry about that. I think we're back. You're back again, Elizabeth. If you just like this, so we got to the point there where you're saying that, you know, you reckon that it will turn violent at some stage if that things go on the way that they're going. You know, and I'm saying is that, you know, everything has been tried, everything, everything under the sun. They went to court. They have held peaceful demonstrations and rallies.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have pleaded with people. Why do we need to be the losers when yet we won that referendum? Why do we have to have our democracy denied? Why do we have to be the brunt of IRA aggression, the psychological war in which they wage in every single day life? Why do we constantly have to be turning a blind eye whilst these people have immunity from prosecution? And we're going to get on to this in a minute. And our veterans, and our security services that stood up to serve and protect us over the years. Why do we have to put up with this? The answer is that we don't. I mean, where are we living? Are we living in North Korea? Just on that subject, Elizabeth, what I want to do is I want to play a short clip of a man from Claudy, you know, a man that lost his brother in what was known as the Claudy bombs. And, you know, this is a man called David Temple. And I would have had David Temple on another platform that we broadcast from, a thing called Forgotten Voices Media, where we do victim stories. And David, I can remember, you know, David was in his 80s. And, you know, and he was looking for justice for his brother, who was blown up as a young child. I think he was 12 years of age in the Claudy bombs. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding these bombings. Now, I just want to let you hear David, and then I want to come back and I want to give you a bit of a take on what you've just heard. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions with reference what you've just heard. And in your opinion, would this be, in anybody's opinion, is this acceptable?
I lost my brother in Claudy in 1972, 31st of July. Claudy is one of the controversial killings in the Troubles. As you know yourself, 1972 was one of the worst years in the Troubles. And there was a priest involved in it. The Northern Ireland office, they tried to hide the priest, and they communicated with the Roman Catholic Church, the Irish government, to try and hide him, put him somewhere away safe. There's nobody's come forward and said what part they played in this. This is why, at the present minute, some of the Claudy families are heading down a legal route, John, to get answers to these questions. That is why Claudy is so controversial, because it involves the Roman Catholic Church, the Northern Ireland office, and Martin McGuinness. Martin McGuinness was invited to meet the Claudy families. He never, ever turned up for it. We will never give up. My father died, John, 4 years after losing his son. My mother passed away there 3 years ago, never getting answers to her son's death. I hope this day, I pray, that I'll be able to see the end of this and get the answers for some of the Clary families. The questions, John, this would need to be answered. But I hope I live long enough, John, to get these answers. If I don't, I have another brother to take my place.
The good news is that David did live long enough to get his answers, and just earlier this year, or the tail end of last year, there was an inquiry basically which shown that what David had actually said was that if you listen to David there, he says that Martin McGuinness, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Northern Ireland office, they were involved in collusion, trying to remove a man from the scene, a man called Father Chesney, and they salted him away across the border into the Irish Republic. For what reason, we do not know, but David's words was vindicated whenever this actually came out in an inquiry just a lot of months ago. So, I've got to congratulate David, and he lived to get the answer that he wanted. And that's all he needed was for the truth actually to come out. And in this case, the truth came out. So that was the Catholic Church, the Northern Ireland office, and the IRA conspiring to salt away and to hide a Catholic priest who was an IRA terrorist who was involved in child murder. It's hard to fathom that that's the type of thing that would have went on. And yet, if you listen to the news, Elizabeth, if you watch, what goes on in the media, the mainstream media, you would think that Republicans were, the poor Republicans, that they were hard done by. That nothing ever, they were Mother Teresa and everyone else were the bad guys. I mean, the reason why I chose that, it was Cloddy isn't too far away from Londonderry, and Londonderry is your hometown, and that's where you're actually going to be standing. Have you any words for what you just heard there, Elizabeth?
Oh, I'm glad that David did get his answers. A lot of families haven't got their answers yet. I'm appalled, basically, that they tried to shield a priest, a bomber. I'm appalled. And I'm also appalled to hear that Martin McGuinness wasn't man enough to go and meet the families at Cloddy. It's just
that's normally the case. They're quick to go to anywhere where they think that they can gain a bit of traction. And let's just talk a bit about Martin McGuinness for a moment or two, seeing that we're on the subject of Londonderry. There's also a man up there called Patsy Gillespie, who they strapped to the seat of his car or his van, and they created a human bomb in Patsy Gillespie. Now, they called it a war. Why are they not facing war crimes? Why are the Americans shielding these people? Why does Irish America continue to give support and succor to these people? Just a few weeks ago here on Restore UK, we exposed a man who came to Northern Ireland in the early 1980s, 1984 going forward, and he was in charge of a CIA slush fund. And what he did was that he was purchasing a lot of things into place. And one of the things that he purchased into place at a cost of $780 million was an office in Washington, D.C. for Sinn Féin. And it doesn't stop there. The CIA paid for that office. And what happened was that an IRA fugitive, a lady called Rita O'Hare, who was wanted by the British government, well, she ended up seeking and getting and having sanctuary and being mollycoddled by Barack Obama and she was put in charge of the Washington, D.C. office of Sinn Féin IRA. Now, we do have a picture here at Restore of Barack Obama, Jerry Adams, and Rita O'Hare looking very, very pally together. And I just say, that adds insult to the injury of Rita O'Hare's victims, of the victims of the IRA. And whenever we think that for too long has British unionism here in Northern Ireland, and I'll use these terms that I don't like using, but I want to talk to everybody here, but has Protestants, unionists and loyalists here in Northern Ireland for too long, have you been second-class citizens, as if you don't matter, as if you are, and excuse this expression, shit on the shoe of the American establishment, the EU, the Irish government, the Westminster government, and our own politicians who actually facilitate this and permit this to happen. Because if that they would nip things in the bud, and if they stood their ground, and if they draw the line and says, this is where we stand, we will be going no further, we would be in a different position today if we only had what I like to term politicians that would stand up for the right reasons, to fight meaningfully and proactively and in a way that would defend, protect, and enhance everyone in Northern Ireland who ever voted for them. Now, I know that we're going to get that from the TUV, and my barometer for that, Elizabeth, is that I see in the TUV ordinary people who have frankly had enough of the shenanigans that has been going on just throughout the years. So, speaking of Patsy Gillespie, speaking of another census worker, Diane Mathers, I think you called that lady, in the Bogside, he was collecting census forms, and the IRA, they decided to shoot that young lady. What about women's rights that they bang on about right now? I mean, these people are, vermin. They're excuses for human beings. They do not know what it's like to have empathy or anything else. It is an evil, twisted ideology which indoctrinates children and which still continues to psychologically wage warfare on the entire population, including Catholics and nationalists here in Northern Ireland. Growing up, Elizabeth, in Londonderry, and that's the place that you're going to be standing in, but growing up in Londonderry, is there anything that you would like to tell us about your youth? Is there anything that you would have looked back? I know that you moved for a time and then you moved back again, but is there anything that would have stuck out in your mind, from the history of Londonderry? Tell us a wee bit about what it is and how that it is, about how you feel about that town.
Londonderry was always kind of like a working class city. Factory workers was one of the main production lines here for jobs. Catholics and Protestants worked side by side, and those jobs. But over the years, factories have disappeared and things like that, and they're no longer there. But the main thing that I have noticed, basically, about Londonderry, is the unionist people are being pushed out. Like our 12th of July, we were always rerouted by these commissioners, parades commissions. So they'd stopped the 12th of July to be in Londonderry, and now when it is in Londonderry, it's only a wee fraction of Londonderry it can be marched on. I suppose we still have the Siege of Derry on the 12th of August, but normally, basically, the 12th of July celebrations is always held over all the different counties each year as the host. But the 12th of July parade is no longer the 12th of July parade that it used to be. But everything, basically, even down to the history, and even down to, if you're going on a bus tour, they're not really talking basically about the truth of anything. They're trying to rewrite the history books.
Could I just comment on what you've just said there? And thanks very much for prompting me to say this. But pre-COVID 2019, I mean, I took a bus tour in Londonderry, and we went up around the city walls. And as we passed around by the Free Derry mural there, past the Bogside and so on, and we went on up around the hill, and we were passing the Fountain Estate, and we passed there, and the quote from the bus tour, you get like a narration of the history of the city, and as they were saying that the Unionists, the Protestants, they lived in there, and there wasn't too much about it really, and they did say that that there was a so many amount of them. I think it was 300 was the quote, and then we went on down the hill towards the Foyle. And as we came to where the new Peace Bridge was, now, I kid you not, and this is the sort of thing that's happening in Northern Ireland right now, and you're absolutely right. It's the rewriting of history. Now, this is what they said on that Derry City bus tour, is that as you will pass across into the waterside, you will have noted in the city side that the houses are small. But we're moving to the more affluent side of, I said Derry, Londonderry, and most of the Protestants would have moved out of the city side to move into the more affluent houses and the bigger houses on the water side. So, I mean, that was a complete rewriting of the history. And I had to say, I meant to go back again, and I think COVID happened to record that, to get myself something to talk about here. But that is sincerely what is going on. I mean, is that the way it happened in Londonderry? Did the Protestants move out of the city side because that they wanted to, waving their flag and saying that they're good old Catholic neighbours and their IRA friends? Bye. We'll see as we're just away to these bigger houses on the other side. Is that how it happened, Elizabeth?
No, that's not how it happened at all. The Protestant people were pushed out of the city side. Still to this day, they call the city side their side. So that means that, it's for Catholics, not for Protestants. So they still call the city side their side. People of the Fountain are still living in fear, still living under siege, is what we call the Fountain, because they have to have big barricades because they get attacked or petrol bombed, at any time. But no, definitely not. They were pushed out. The Protestant people had to be pushed out.
Yeah. Well, thanks for reminding me of that. And there you go. Just that you reminded me of that. I had something in my memory bank with reference exactly what I heard when I was doing one of those bus tours. Now, what I'm going to do here, people, is that I'm going to yet again, ask you for the live chat to please leave, Elizabeth, some support messages here in the live chat. It was Joanne Mathers. There was the name there. Thanks very much for that, Jim. I said Diane. Joanne Mathers murdered was sanctioned by, well, we can't, hold on, we don't know about that, so we can't say that. So anyway, we know that she was murdered. We know that Martin McGuinness was a major player in the IRA up there, right there. Other than that, that's what we know. We have to be very, very careful what we say here on Restore UK. So anyway, moving on. We talked about the victims. We talked about David Temple. We talked about the Claudy bombings. We talked about the under siege, the Fountain Estate there, how that they have to have these big high wire fences and whatnot, how that the city side of Londonderry, Londonderry, as some would call it, how that the city side has become a cold house for Unionists, Protestants, Unionists or Loyalists, how that they do not want a Unionist about the place unless that they're under the thumb or unless that they're, that they're begging. And that's how that things are up there. But we've talked about all of that. Now, I wanted to actually, we're coming to a close. That went very quickly. In fact, I could spend another hour here with you. And I think the live chat actually could too, Elizabeth, because you come across to me as a genuine, normal person, someone who has hopes and fears and aspirations for the future, someone who feels let down because of the way that the political parties has dealt with things in the past, and someone who doesn't want her children having to grow up in what could be an EU vassal, part of a Republic of Ireland, a socialist hellhole, and that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that on another stream. In fact, if at 10 hours we could talk about how the Republic of Ireland are treating their own people right now. But there's something else that I wanted to touch on before that we close. And I'm gonna, I do hope that you will come back again, because there's so much more that you and I could actually talk about. But whenever we had the precursor chat, we talked about things that actually mattered to you. And, one of the things that mattered to you was the very fact that whilst the IRA, whilst the terrorists have immunity from prosecution, whilst that they continue to rewrite history, whilst that they are facilitated in rewriting that history by Irish America, by the EU, who turn a blind eye, by the Irish government, even by our own British government, whilst that everyone turns a blind eye at these people painting themselves out to be Mother Teresa, and they continue to say that it was everyone else's fault, everyone aggressed against them, it was never them that murdered babies, not too far away from Londonderry is a place called Abercorn Square, and in 1972 there was a little baby there, 5-month-old. The IRA, they set off a bomb, that the bomb blast shard glass on that young baby, cutting that young baby to death. There's only one example of the type of animals that these people are, but yet they have a straight face whenever they continue to rewrite this history. So I'm just looking for a video clip that I think that would be something that would be sensible to put up here for you to have a commentary on. So here we go. I'm looking for a man that was a British soldier who came here to serve and protect the people, who came here. Now, he came to a land when he didn't know anyone here. He just came here to do a job. He was sent here by the MOD, and he wasn't here to murder Catholics. He wasn't here to murder anyone. He was here to put himself in danger, to often be fired upon and possibly being blown up or anything. You know how it went. And these people, these are heroes in my absolute opinion. Now, this is a story of some British soldiers who came here, and what they did was that they came via Aldergrove to the airport, and they were on their way to their base. And on their way to their base one evening, the IRA had a roadside bomb, and they blew the bus up. So in this man's words, I would just like to play a small clip, and then off the back of it, I would like to get a wee bit of commentary from you. And then we'll move on by closing the screen. But here we go.
I was 21 when it happened. It was our first tour. Well, it was my first tour. I think our 18-month stint ended up being about 2.5 years. So it was towards the end of our just over 2-year tour when we got hit. We were meant to be going down to South Armagh to help the Royal Engineers cover the engineers and, to actually rebuild all the super tankers down at South Armagh. So we got given an extra long weekend just to go and see our families before we actually went down to South Armagh. So it was just there. We went home and come back, and we were going back from the airport back to camp, and we were all in civilians, in a coach which is the same colour as Ulster bus. And then we got diverted onto the A5 up towards Ballygordy. I actually got comfortable with my legs up on the seat in front of me because I thought I'd get about half hour's kit before we actually get back into camp. And at first I thought it was like we had a big accident, like we hit something. I got knocked out. Because I come round then and I couldn't move because I was trapped underneath the back axle. I was just screaming out. All the blokes just actually lifted the bus up off me, off the back axle. And then I got dragged out and I got put up onto the road, and I laid in this girl's lap. I didn't realise that there was kids helping us giving us first aid. All our clothes are everywhere, and they were actually picking up bits of clothing off the road and actually putting it over our cuts. People say that we're the heroes. We're not the heroes. We're just out there to do a job. It's the actual people who live over there, not the terrorists, not the IRA lovers or anything else. They're genuine people. They're the heroes to me. They are the heroes because they've actually lived through it.
Now, what will actually please you to know is that the people that were comforting that man and his colleagues were actually from. There was one lady particularly from Fountain. There was a band on their way from. I don't know where they were coming from, but they were coming through Ballygolly, and they were coming up the road just as the bomb blast occurred. And they get out and they use their band uniforms. This was a marching loyalist band, and they get out and they use their band uniforms to comfort the likes of James, their Scouse, and his friends who actually survived that bomb. Now he was 21 years of age. He had never done anything on anyone here in Northern Ireland. He came here to stand between warring factions, putting his life in danger. And these people decided to be judge, jury, and executioner, and to blow that bus up. And they said that was an honourable war, Elizabeth. So there you go. So that was the people that would actually have comforted that bus on that very evening were people from Londonderry, and specifically people from the Fountain. And for quite some time there on the Forgotten Voices media channel, I can't remember the young lady's name, but she would have actually joined us. And it was that lady that would have comforted that man on that fateful night. Veterans is a big thing for people here in Northern Ireland. For that specific reason is that we owe them a debt of gratitude, for number one. And for number two is that there are brothers and sisters in England, Scotland, and Wales. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all part of the United Kingdom. And they came here to save nationalists, to save Catholics, to save Protestants, Unionists, Loyalists. They didn't differentiate whenever they would have walked the streets and they could have been shot at. They could have stepped in a bomb. This is the way things went. I would just like for you, Elizabeth, to give your take on what it was that you just seen there.
Well, I think he himself was a very brave man. He was brave to come here. We owe him a lot. We owe all our veterans a lot. And I just hope and pray that they get the support that they're needed, that Brandon Lewis does right by them. We're no heroes, but he is. And the people like him are the heroes. And they need to be honoured. They need to be respected. And they definitely need to be supported by the government to be able to prove their innocence. Our veterans don't want the amnesty because they believe that is for guilty people.
Yeah.
The thing that saddens me, John, is that if you're in the British Army, you can be sued. You can put through all this. But if you're in the paramilitaries like the IRA, then you can't sue them. So it saddens me to say that, it's unfair for what they're trying to do. They're not supporting our veterans. And they shouldn't be dragged through courts. They don't deserve it. They've suffered enough. So they don't deserve it. Let them enjoy their retirement now without being dragged through courts. I could go on all night, but I'd get very angry because it's something that it really annoys me to think that the veterans are being treated this way. They deserve better.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, used and abused, then dispensed with whenever they
Mm-hmm.
don't matter, as if that they're again dirt on the shoe of the British government. And how, like shame on the British government for
Yeah.
doing what they're doing. Now
Mm-hmm.
there's outside forces which is actually driving this. Whereby that recently we heard from some American people in the Senate or whatever it is. Some of these. I'm stuck for words here when I'm looking for their names. Some of these vile excuses for human beings in America that is involved in politics, let's just go that way. And, we did hear them saying that, if there's a move to actually, give the British soldiers immunity from prosecution, let's just say, uh, by way of a thing called the statute of limitations, that you couldn't be charged after a certain amount of time. And there's lots of that right around the world. But they say, well, that is unacceptable. So what they want, the Americans want the poor British soldiers, the people that would have came here to serve and protect the people, they want them persecuted and prosecuted, whilst the terrorists have immunity from prosecution. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that the Americans have a lot to answer for in terms of where it is that we've ended up today. Now, and look at what happened over the years. How many British soldiers would have stood side by side with Americans every time that they start a war? The
Yeah.
British soldiers get up and they go and they help. And
Mm-hmm.
here we are. Here we are in 2022 in war that our veterans, our heroes,
Yeah.
the people that served and protected us, the people that we owe a lot of gratitude to.
We do.
Well, we will not be, let's just say, we will not shirk from our responsibility to stand up from these people. And just as a matter of interest, Elizabeth, there's a case coming up on the 28th here. Mr. Holden, and it's in Belfast here, and he'll be here. He'll be present at the court in Belfast, and I'm just letting people know there. And what we will be doing is that we'll be doing a live feed on that week, and we hope to get to talk to him, and we also hope to, we'll promote it here and Restore going forward. And just looking at those, the likes of David Temple, a victim who did get a sense of justice. And he's one of the lucky ones, but all he got was an answer in realization that actually what did happen was Martin McGuinness, that the priest, I can't remember his name, I had his name a minute ago, the priest and the British government by way of the Northern Ireland Office, well, they all worked collusively in collusive behaviour, is what we hear not too long ago from the police ombudsman. Father Chesney is the man I was looking for. But they worked, they colluded together to ensure that IRA terrorist did not face justice for the evil deed that he carried out there in the Claudy bombings, in where the David Temple and David Temple's family, they lost a 12-year-old boy, from my recollection. So that's what drives us here at Restore, and that's what will continue to drive us. So just before that we close and we let you go and get some beauty sleep, and thanks very much for coming along. You've been a breath of fresh air. Restore UK, Restore the United Kingdom is what you call this channel. Now, we were in place basically for quite some time with the name, but if you had to restore anything about our politics here in Northern Ireland, what would you restore in March of 2022?
The first thing I would restore is trust, because I believe that that's what the local people like myself want, trust in our politicians. So I would like to basically restore trust and let the people know that they can trust, that we will keep ourselves honest and loyal and true to the electorate, and they can trust the TUV with their vote. We won't betray them.
Very well said, Elizabeth. I know a lot of people that has joined the TUV, ordinary decent people just like us. As I say, not polished politicians by any means, but they have the support of the people. Why? Because they're a party now of the people. They're a party of people, and they're a party that just like you, just like I, just like the people on the live chat, in where that we've all had enough of these career-minded politicians that are willing to sell us out for, well, for their own personal advancement. And, you know, if you watch here at Restore in the coming days and the coming weeks, well, we've scratched the surface, and we've scratched the surface very, very deeply. And we're going to be bringing you things that that might shock you to your core. Yeah, but sometimes some things are worth exposing. I always say that on Restore UK. Elizabeth, once again, thank you very much for coming along. So everybody remember that face. Elizabeth Neely, she's standing in Foyle. She's standing for the people of Londonderry. She wants to be a voice of the people, for the people. She wants to be actually fighting for people in a way that they actually deserve. You know, bringing back the years in where that, well, they haven't had representation, because what has happened in the past is that there has been party political machines put in place, and whenever the politician that gets elected in certain areas, they go forward to their party and they say, well, we want to deal with this, we want to deal with that, we want to deal with the other, and the party says, shushy, that's not on the agenda, just forget about it. And I'm going to give people an example here, just one example, before we ask for your goodbye, and I think you need to hear this, Elizabeth. A few years ago, there was an expose of a man who had actually been caught in video from an old bit of video footage, saying that what he did was that he commissioned 4 bombs for use in Bloody Friday. And a DUP councillor, Dale Pankhurst, he took that up, and what he did was he moved forward and he made a complaint to the PSNI with reference to this man's claims. Now, you would think that in any society in where that here's an admission of terrorism, here's an admission of not only terrorism, but a man who commissioned 4 bombs for use in that day. And we had the video footage of this man actually admitting this very thing. Well, Dale Pankhurst went forward to the PSNI, and I have contacted Dale Pankhurst again to find out, well, what has happened? And, you know, there's nothing much more that is said about it. And, you know, I reckon, well, it probably doesn't suit the DUP to be rocking the boat too much, you know, for those type of things. And those are the type of things that not only do we want changed, but we need changed if we're going to exist as Northern Ireland going forward for another 100 years. Elizabeth, once again, thank you very much. And if you would just like to say your goodbyes to the live chat, and also I have no doubt that you will be canvassing in the Londonderry area in the coming days and the coming weeks. And I know that there's a lot of people from up around your area. And, you know, if you need any help with leaflets or any help at all, I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you certainly address the live chat and you just tell people all about it. And if you need any help, and just really, if you say your goodbyes, I thank you very much for coming along. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much, John, for having me. And yes, if there's anyone out there that's going to be able to help with the leaflets, I really would appreciate their support. They can contact me anytime. I just want to thank you all, and have a very good night.
Yeah. Well, you too, Elizabeth, and thank you. You've been a breath of fresh air. And again, I've stressed, you know, not a polished politician, but an ordinary, decent person who cares, who not only cares for the future of her own future, her family's future, the future of the place that she lives, the future of the place that she grew up on. She cares about her history, her heritage, her culture. She cares about Northern Ireland's place in the United Kingdom. She cares that we remain part of the United Kingdom. And that is Elizabeth Neely. If I was in Londonderry, I'd be giving you my vote. Thanks very much, Elizabeth, for coming along.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Cheerio. So there you have it, people. Just another ordinary person who's coming along to offer herself to stand for the TUV in the up-and-coming assembly elections. And as I've often said to people here, is that, you know, ordinary people are worth more than 10. One ordinary person is worth more than 10 polished professional politicians. Now, after the break here, what we're going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to be talking about current affairs here in Northern Ireland. And, you know, in true fashion, what we will do is we'll go to the live chat and we'll also, you know, we're going to lay it out there with reference some of the things that we've been digging into in the past few days. And yeah, well, let's just say after the break, you're in for some more Restore UK at its finest, let's just say. See us after this. And we're going to play us out with this song once more.
You know, the greatest challenge that we face is bringing our own people with us, making peace with your friends.
Any man who is not with us is against us. When is a unionist not a unionist? When he creates disunion.
Well, in the end, customs checks doesn't mean that you change the constitutional status of a part of the United Kingdom.
This is the most momentous election that we have ever had to face. We must elect those who will fight for the Union, not those who would oppose it.
Already we're seeing the political parties and business leaders coming together to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
The Northern Ireland Assembly is the place where every element of our society is represented. Such partnership is how we must move forward. And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries.
When is a unionist not a unionist? When he creates disunion.
The sheet of paper you were given didn't show you all these different regulations on them, so it didn't even mention how many regulations there were. And when I queried that, I asked one of the DUP spads because I knew it had something to do with it, and I was given this assurance that it was keeping us in line with the rest of the United Kingdom, and there was absolutely nothing to worry about.
And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries.
I trusted what I was told, and I made a mistake, and that's how it was sold to me, and I can only apologise.
The Northern Ireland Assembly is the place where every element of our society is represented. And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries. In August 2016, within weeks of the EU referendum, my party leader, Arnie Foster, penned a letter jointly with the then Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness. That letter was written to the UK Prime Minister, Theresa May. And it's worth quoting, I think, from this letter. This region is unique in that it is the only part of the UK which has a land border with an EU member state. There have been difficult issues relating to the border throughout our history and the peace process. We therefore appreciate your stated determination that the border will not become an impediment to the movement of people, goods and services.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
It was pragmatic and constructive. As then First Minister and Deputy First Minister, these two leaders were writing in the same spirit of mutual respect and common sense, which enabled my party and Sinn Féin to reach agreement at St Andrews and subsequently to establish a power-sharing government.
We must elect those who will fight for the Union, not those who would oppose it.
And therefore, making peace with your enemies is important, but it can only be successful if you make peace with your friends. Thank you.
That's his back, people. And I hope you heard those words from wee Jeffrey there, where he did say at the very end, and specifically, I put those words in, is that making peace with your enemies, it can only be successful if first you make peace with your friends. And you can't make peace with your friends if you continue to lie to them. If you ask for support, then you lie to their face. You can't make peace with your friends if you capitulate on every single IRA demand. You can't make peace with your friends if you do not stand up against the constitutional changing EU protocol. You can't make peace with your friends if you continue to let people down. You can't make peace with your friends if you do not liaise and talk with your friends. You cannot make peace with your friends if you do not come to channels like this and put yourself up for a chat, a talk, in order that people can ask you questions. You cannot even consider making peace with your friends if you're going to be the type of person that puts everything on the long finger. Then anything that you ever go to you with, Jeffrey Donaldson, well, nothing is ever done. Nothing ever happens. Nothing happens at all. You expect the needle to return to the start of the song and everybody's going to sing along like before. Well, that's not how. It's just not going to happen like that, because people have had enough. People like Elizabeth Neely, people like other people that have joined the TUV, people who would have filled the TUV conference on Saturday, people right around this country have had enough of the lies and the swindle and the very fact that the DUP pre the last election, the general election in 2019, in December 2019, in where that you asked for support and you lied to our face. That's exactly what the DUP done. Anyway, enough of the DUP, but that's the reason and that's the rationale. And some people say that we need unionist unity. We need all the help that we can get from within British unionism right now. But it doesn't mean to say that we have to put our fingers or our hands in the DUP fire over and over and over again. That's not going to happen. It's definite. And we continued to tell the DUP that it wasn't going to happen. It's not going to happen this time. And I think that the DUP are actually running scared at the minute. Onwards and upwards for the party of the people, the party in where the ordinary people are joining that party, ordinary people that will be prepared to serve and protect you in the way that you actually deserve. Because for too long in Northern Ireland, you haven't had the support to which you actually deserve. So there we go, people. That's enough of that. Anyway, what I want to do here is I want actually to pop something up and I want to just advertise something. And again, I'm appealing to people. If you care, please be there. Take the day off work, do whatever it is that you have to do in order to be there. And it has to be done symbolically on this day. I'm just going to pop up this here, this advertisement. So a protest against the Belfast Agreement on Good Friday, the 15th of April, 2022 at Stormont Estate, Belfast at 1:30. There will be guest speakers. Everyone will be welcome. Play your part, help make history. And it says here at the bottom that the event is facilitated by Restore UK. And I'm going to say that there'll be on that event, and I'm just popping this up now, there's another little picture. So on that event, there'll be, have your say, Good Friday at 1:30. There'll be, speakers like there was the last time. There'll be music. We're hoping to have marching bands, and we're appealing to people on the live chat. If you know anybody with a marching band that would like to, who feels like you, who feels that the Belfast Agreement doesn't work for them, ask them to attend our event, and ask your nearest, your dearest, your friends, your family, ask anyone that put out these little posters. We'll pop them onto the different channels that we use here on social media, and spread these things, share them to your family and friends, and just basically saying, if you care, be there, because we would like to send a message to those that think that they can continue on in this failed Belfast Agreement that doesn't work for British Unionists. It is totally failed. It is an appeasement process. It doesn't work for British Unionists. The principle of consent, we've found quite lately, well, it wasn't worth the promise that it actually was. And the paper that it was written on, the Belfast Agreement, it was a disguise. It was built for appeasement, swindle and lies. The peace is a farce. The IRA guns are still there. And London, the truth of this is London is afraid of another bomb scare. And they're being held by the threat of IRA violence. What type of democracy do we live in? What type of country do we live in? What type of United Kingdom do we live in whenever they give in to the threat of violence and the agitations and the Americans have a lot to do with this, people. The more that we dig, the more that we understand, the more people that we talk to. And why isn't it that you have never been told this before? Why have you never been told that as a result of Irish-American aspirations and American foreign policy, well, you see, British Unionists, well, they will be the people that are null and void if we let it happen. But we're not going to let it happen. We're really not going to let it happen. And the chance that we have right now, the only chance that we have right now to make British Unionism strong, to create the circumstances in where that it's onwards and upwards going forward, the only chance that we have right now is the party of the people, the TUV, and this channel, Restore UK, where we are putting our full weight behind every TUV candidate in the country, and we're going to ask each and every person to vote for these people. And let me just explain something about the TUV as we go. There used to be a party called the TUV, in where Jim Allister would have been, the main man on it, and Sammy Morrison would have done the communications within it, and there were other people that were involved in the party, but it was pretty much a small party. But this time it's different. This time they are building structure, infrastructure. They are bringing people, ordinary, decent people, into the ruling body of the TUV, the executive council of the TUV. I'm just using words here, but you get what I'm saying, is that there are ordinary people just like you and I who are on the decision-making panels and processes within the TUV. So the TUV are going to be a party of the people. They are going to be a party in where that they are people just like us. They are people who are fed up to the back teeth just like us. And they are people that they will stand for us. They will not. Let's give you one example. I'll just give you one example of one man, and there's many more that I could talk about. But you take Ron McDowell. He's standing in North Belfast for the TUV. Now, Ron McDowell is a man who has a very, very good job. Now, he's been long standing in this job, from what I understand, some 30 years. And there is Ron offering himself to stand for election, that he might get elected. And if he does, and what happened if Stormont collapses and Ron has lost his job? You see, Ron is willing to put his livelihood on the line for no financial reward in order to offer himself to serve and protect you. I mean, that's just one example of one TUV member. The lady that was on there, Elizabeth Neely, she's willing to put her head above the parapet, to take all sorts of criticism in order that she could serve and protect you. The little guy, Darren Foster, that was on here a few weeks ago, a young man who has a business, who has a wife and a family, who's willing to put his head above the parapet to offer himself as a vehicle to change things, change politics here in Northern Ireland. There's lots of people. We're going to have more of them on here in the next few weeks, but understand what it means for these people to either put themselves in jeopardy, putting their heads above the parapet, for their heads to be basically knocked off, because politics is a rough enough game, and they're doing that for you. They're doing that for me, and I believe that they warrant our support. So there you go. And we did hear it said that loyalists are not welcome in the TUV. Well, I can tell you right now that I know loyalists that have joined the TUV, and there is one specification or stipulation, is that they need to have demonstrated that they have put their past behind them, that they are committed to truly peaceful means as a way forward, political means as a way to actually change things. And you contrary to popular belief, you can change things politically. You can change things politically, provided that you get a party in power in great numbers that you can trust. And we've no option. We have only one last roll of the dice, and the TUV is our last roll of the dice, people. You make no mistake about that. So we need to give them our support. We need to give them our utmost support. And we need to thank people like Elizabeth Neely and Ron McDowell and John Ross and Darren Foster, amongst other people that we need to be giving them people our utmost support and thanking them truly from the bottom of our hearts for offering us another chance at getting things right. That was the TUV, and we all need to support them. People, thank you very much for coming along. Thank you. I'm actually quite run down this evening. Not run down, but certainly, I'd been out working all day and I had an early start. And, last night it was up very, very late, making that little, clip of all the voice clips of Jeffrey, just really to show some of the things that Jeffrey's been saying in the past. I spent long hours doing that. I was up to the early hours of this morning, worked today, back preparing for this, and it takes its toll. But something, it's worth taking its toll. It's worth it if it's going to in some way contribute to the furtherance of Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom, and in some way if it's going to help remove the constitutional changing EU protocol. We need the TUV returned in numbers. We need to be standing up against the Belfast Agreement. We need to be standing up against the terrorists who are waging psychological war here in Northern Ireland. And we need to be standing together. When people stand together, we, you, I, and everyone else, well, we can achieve a lot. Thanks very much, people, for coming along. I'll not be staying for too much longer this evening. However, I may be back before the end of the week because we have a few things that we want to do. There's a few things that we're scratching the surface with. There's a few things that that the research has already been done. And I have to say, they're just like we normally do here in Restore. They are exposés. You will get your eyes open, let's just say, with a lot of the things that we've been scratching the surface with. But it wouldn't be possible if it were not for the people on Restore who watches our broadcasts, who then comes and they give us, let's just say, a crumb in order to follow the line of crumbs. And, and some of the things that you find whenever that you do the research, well, let's just say it blows your mind and it makes you realize who is on your side, who has been on your side. Has anyone been on your side down throughout the years? Well, thanks very much for coming along. Really, really appreciate it. What I'm going to do, people, again, is I'm going to pop the PayPal link again into the live chat there. And if you can help in any way towards our work, because we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. We have a lot of places to go. We have a lot of videos to make for TUV candidates and so on. And we do need your help in order to do this. With this protest coming up against the Belfast Agreement, there's some banners to be bought. There's still the 100 Wood project. We'll be doing some interviews with some veterans in the very, very near future. We have a great wee story coming on here and Restore in the coming weeks. And this is a story, a man who is hugely connected with the Orange Order, hugely connected with British Unionism here in Northern Ireland, And this man is now in his 90s, and he's very, I'm going to say he's very, very clear of head, and there's no problem with his faculties, let's just say. And he confided in me with a story just a few weeks ago, and he was telling me this because he knows what we do here at Restore. And this is a man that you're really going to enjoy this story. And in fact, nobody in our background even knows about this. So let me just explain one of the stories that we've coming up. Just off the Shankill Road in Belfast, a place called Woodvale Avenue, where this man would have called the back gates of Woodvale Park. In the 1940s, early 40s, this man was coming out of Woodvale Park with his mum. And I'll just sort of give you the story as it goes. But this man was coming out of Woodvale Park railings with his mum. And a German bomb landed not too far away from them. And the bomb blew up. And the blast of the bomb actually collapsed his mum's lungs, killing her outright. And that young man was 8 years of age. Now, this is a man who's a well-respected man who, in the field, in the Eden Dairy field over the years, down throughout the years within Orangism, he would have been one of the people on the platform, delivering some of the speeches and whatnot in the 12th demonstrations. And this man's he's offered to come and to document his story. And he's going to talk about what happened on that day whenever he was 8 years of age. And his mum shielded him from the bomb. And whilst he was holding her hand, she was killed outright by a German bomb in what was known as the Blitz. And we're going to be talking about his time growing up in the Shankill, his faith as a Christian minister, and also with reference the culture, the history and the heritage to which this man would have literally give his life for. So I think that that's a really, really good story that we're going to be telling in the future. But it just shows you it's because of what we do here. It's because that people see. It's because that we're getting the name for who we are. Well, those stories are now coming to us. And this man came to us and is entrusting us with this story in order that we can document that story so that future generations can have those stories documented actually going forward. We're also talking to a victims group, and I'm liaising with a lady in where that there's going to be victims stories coming again to Forgotten Voices Media. And what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be traveling to meet some of these victims, because these victims of IRA violence, IRA terrorism, they're old people. And we actually have to go to them, and we will be documenting their stories to bring to you here on Restore and at Forgotten Voices Media. So there's a lot happening, people. And, there's only so much time in the day. And I have to earn a living. I have to pay the bills. I have to eat. And we have to put the fuel in the car. So I'm only saying that whenever you put money into our channel, well, what you're doing is that you're helping us help you. And you're helping us provide a history in where that young people can look back on, and young people can look back and they can look at the rewritten history by these Republican vermin, and they can look at our side of the story, because our side of the story, too often it isn't told. Too often it hasn't been documented. Well, has people lost faith because of the way that the politicians have been dealing with the people of Northern Ireland? I think that many people have. I think that maybe in the next election, bar the people that come here, bar the people that are really interested, there'll be a lot of disconnect, and it will have been caused because the people have lost faith in politics. And who do we blame? Well, we blame our mainstream politicians. Now, I'm again appealing to the DUP. I'm appealing to the UUP. I'm appealing to the PUP. We need to really create an army of people. We need to put an army of people together. We need to have weapons of words. We need to teach those people how to defend themselves. We need to teach them people what they're fighting for. A lot of people know what they're fighting for, but sometimes ordinary people, well, they know what they want to say, but sometimes they don't know how to say it. And we need to teach as many people as humanly possible to push forth the message of British Unionism, push forth the positive message of Northern Ireland, push forth the benefits of remaining part of the greatest union that the world has ever seen. That union being the United Kingdom Union, which is made up of 4 constituent parts. That is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And it's never over. It is never over. If British Boris Johnson, if the Boris Johnson conglomerate, if they want to sell us out, if successive British governments like Tony Blair, like John Major, and so on and so forth, and Margaret Thatcher done the Anglo-Irish Agreement, but if successive British governments wants to incrementally hand us over, as per the words of Peter Brook and as per the words of Patrick Mayhew, that Britain has no selfish strategic or economic interest in Northern Ireland, well, people, what we need to do is that we need to turn that around, and we need to use our right as British citizens, our absolute right as British citizens, to insist and to ensure that Northern Ireland would last for another 100 years. And it can be done, but we can't do it alone. We need political representation that is prepared to work tirelessly for and on behalf of every single unionist citizen here in Northern Ireland. People, thanks very much once again for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed the show that we had lined up there for you this evening, and I hope you enjoyed Elizabeth, and I've no doubt in the near future that we'll have Elizabeth back here again. Right, playing us out with here's what we're going to do. Now, we do have other things that we do want to play here in the very, very near future, but we're going to give us a wee bit of our marching bands culture for a change, and we're going to play us out with 2 things. We're going to play us out with a marching band, and then we're going to play us out with a patriotic song that each and every person here on Restore actually loves. So here's what I want to do is I want to pep up that PayPal link. If you can help us, put a few pounds into that live chat if you can. And as I said, playing us out with a marching band first and then a patriotic song. And I'll see you all very soon. Thanks very much for coming along. For without you, we wouldn't be the platform that we are. Thank you.
Just across the Irish Sea stirs a heart of loyalty, raising honor and dignity, drives a will to keep us British free. Not alone are we on this journey, for in a land just across the sea is a hand that reaches out in friendship, and a bond that's lasted centuries. And its hands across the water, reaching out for you and me, for Queen Ulster and for Scotland, held to keep our loyal people free. Let the cry be no surrender, let no one doubt our loyalty, reaching out the brave red hand of Ulster is the hand across the sea. Cross the water, reaching out for you and me, for Queen and Ulster and for Scotland, help to keep our loyal people free. Let the cry be no surrender, let no one doubt our loyalty. Reaching out to the brave red hand of Ulster is a hand across the sea. Just across the Irish Sea stirs a heart of loyalty, raising honor and dignity. Drive the will to keep us British free. Not alone, only on this journey, or in a land just across the sea. It's a hand that reaches out in friendship. It's the hand across the sea. It's the hand across the sea. It's a hand across the sea.
We didn't join Europe to be swallowed up in some bureaucratic conglomerate where it's Euro this and Euro that and forget about being British. We're British and we're proud of it. Proud of our traditions, proud of our national character,